Since the character's inception in 1990, Deadpool has consistently been one of the funniest characters in the Marvel Universe. From his raunchy sense of humor to fourth wall-breaking references, there was no other character like him. Thanks to his unique personality, the Merc with a mouth quickly grew in popularity.
Get your special sock out, nerds. It's gonna get good. Your little cinematic universe is about to change forever. This just feels right.
After a few brief non-speaking appearances in X-Men the Animated Series, Deadpool would go on to feature in several Marvel video games throughout the 2000s. My first introduction to him was in the comics from the Joe Kelly run, which really established his quirks, backstory, and introduced his supporting cast, which included Blind Al and Weasel. The first time I saw him come to life was in the second X-Men Legends game, Rise of Apocalypse, developed by Raven Software. His appearance was definitely a surprise. Performed by John Kassir, best known as the voice of the Crypt Keeper, it was astonishing to see the character come to life in a way that was faithful to the source material.
Finally, it's beating you up time! They really gotta get a new catchphrase.
Kassir would voice the character again in the two Ultimate Alliance games, also developed by Raven. He easily became one of my favorite characters to play as, since he excelled in both long and close-range combat. In 2000, Artisan Entertainment acquired the film rights to 15 Marvel characters, which included the likes of the Punisher, Black Widow, Ant-Man, Iron Fist, Captain America, Deadpool, and more. Of all the Marvel projects they announced, only the Punisher would actually see the light of day, released in 2004. Later that year, Artisan would unfortunately become defunct, folding into Lionsgate. As a result, the film rights would ultimately return to Marvel. By February, David S. Goyer would begin working on a Deadpool project at New Line Cinema, with whom he wrote and produced the Blade films. Following their work together on Blade Trinity, Ryan Reynolds became attached to the role in a way that can be described as only fate.
I'm not a big comic book guy, but I really gravitated toward Deadpool. I fell in love with Deadpool. The first issue I opened up, I'm not making this up, I was on the panel. Like in the comic, it said, Deadpool was saying, somebody asked him what he looks like. He says, I look like a cross between Ryan Reynolds and a Shar-Pei. And I was like, Jesus, this is fucking destiny. What the hell?
Unfortunately, since many aspects of the character's backstory was tied to Weapon X and Wolverine, which was owned by Fox, the project was sadly shelved. Following 4 years of zero progress, Deadpool was announced to be featured in the Wolverine spin-off X-Men Origins Wolverine, with Reynolds still attached in the role. Of course, the way that turned out angered a lot of fans. I was still a kid at the time, but even I was flabbergasted by the approach they took.
I needed your powers for the pool.
The what?
The mutant killer. Deadpool.
Though I do admit, I thought it was kinda cool at the time. Having an iconic character who's best known for cracking jokes to get their mouth sewn shut is just a textbook example of movie executives having no idea what the fuck they're doing.
So Deadpool is not going to ever come to his complete fruition as Deadpool as the fans know him in the comic books.
And then I remember telling one of the studio execs, I said, you guys are people are gonna go nuts over this. And he was like, I know, right? And I was like, no, not in a good way.
No, nuts.
No,
People went insane.
The Deadpool character, you can't do this to the Deadpool character. And they just said, it'll work, watch.
Having him shoot lasers too is just utterly ridiculous.
I'm a fire in my laser!
Although he ends up being decapitated, a post-credits scene was included featuring Deadpool shushing the audience, which I guess you could say was the first time he broke the fourth wall in film. This ultimately left the door open for Deadpool to return in his own film, which Fox was still intent on making. Also, I have to mention, I kinda like the scene with Deadpool where he fucking cuts up all those bullets and then stabs those two guys. Like, he definitely nailed the character somewhat with his humor.
Manicure.
But like, even then, it was still ridiculous, and the fact they made fun of it in Deadpool 2 was really awesome. Officially confirmed following X-Men Origins' successful box office run, a Deadpool film was back on the cards. Tim Miller of Blur Studio was hired to direct. This would be his first feature film, having previously served as a second unit director on Scott Pilgrim vs. the World and The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Zombieland writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick had written a script bringing Deadpool back to his violent and foul-mouthed roots, which was definitely needed. Reynolds would even contribute to the writing as well. After Green Lantern's critical and box office failure, which I must admit is a guilty pleasure of mine, Fox became worried about producing Deadpool, which they felt was too obscure a character capable of producing big numbers. Regardless, Tim Miller and Ryan Reynolds still continued on their passion project, producing the now iconic test footage in 2012. After turning it in, Fox executives were still not convinced, which is insane. David Fincher and James Cameron, close friends of Tim Miller, even tried persuading Fox to get it greenlit, but to no avail. Following the success of The Avengers, Fox felt Deadpool would work better in an ensemble film. This led to the development of a feature film based on the Civil War comic, which would feature all the Marvel characters that Fox owned at the time. Extremely satisfied with their work on X-Men First Class, Fox hired Zack Stentz and Ashley Miller to write it.
It used the X-Men, it used the Fantastic Four, it used Daredevil, it used Deadpool. Because again, they were, Daredevil was still at Fox at the time, and it was a really cool freaking script, and we almost had Paul Greengrass directing it, which would have been really cool. But he had another project to do instead. It didn't end up going, but it would have been. It was a script I was really proud of, and it would have been really good.
The main premise featured the Human Torch accidentally going supernova during a battle, completely leveling part of New York, killing hundreds. This would lead to the government creating the Superhuman Registration Act, which of course would create a huge point of contention between the various heroes. Development went as far as getting Bourne director Paul Greengrass on board, but it eventually ended up being cancelled. It's unclear what Deadpool's role would have been, but it would have been a really cool project that seemed to be a closer adaptation of the comic than Captain America Civil War. With a slew of exciting announcements during the 2014 Comic-Con, Fox unfortunately had nothing to show, but miraculously on the closing day, a Deadpool trailer suddenly appeared on YouTube. Featuring his trademark humor, hilarious pop culture references, and brilliantly choreographed action, this was everything people wanted to see in a Deadpool movie. Fans and critics online raved about it. Within weeks, Fox officially greenlit the movie and gave it a release date of February 12, 2016. Completing its production in just 2 months, it underwent a very swift filming period. Interestingly, Fox was against having writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick on set as script supervisors, viewing it as an unnecessary expense, which prompted Ryan Reynolds to pay for their salaries out of his own pocket. I mean, he has been known to be a very giving person, donating $500,000 alongside his wife to Water First Education and Training, a charity that provides safe water to Indigenous communities in Canada, as well as $1 million to Feeding America and Food Banks Canada, and another $1 million to Ukrainian refugees. He's a real gem of a Canuck. In time for Comic-Con 2015, a full trailer was shown to attendees at Hall H. The overwhelmingly positive reception prompted Tim Miller to show it a second time.
I do have a microphone, so fuck it, let's show it again.
Deadpool would finally release Valentine's Weekend 2016 to amazing reviews and a huge box office return of $783 million on a budget of only $58 million. The film nailed Deadpool to a T. The grounded approach really worked with gruesome yet cartoonish violence and a fantastic supporting cast. The meta jokes and references were awesome, including all the Green Lantern ones.
Please don't make the super suit green or animated.
He even introduced Dopinder, an original character in the film, into the larger Marvel mythos. Breaking several records, it managed to outgross every single X-Men film and became the highest grossing R-rated film of all time. What's wild is Deadpool even received 2 Golden Globe nominations, one for Best Motion Picture and Best Actor for Ryan Reynolds in the musical or comedy category. The road to Deadpool was certainly no easy one, but all the years of hard work really paid off in the best way. Its success led to a sequel 2 years later. Funny enough, the post-credits sequence had Deadpool go back in time to kill his former self in X-Men Origins Wolverine and tell Wolverine not to hang up the claws, foreshadowing what would become the plot of the threequel. The time-traveling shenanigans were the perfect setup for the TVA to appear. The teaser trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine became the most watched movie trailer of all time, truly cementing Deadpool as an A-list character. The character finally joining the MCU is a dream come true to many, and while it's exciting to see him part of a bigger world, the film also seems to be somewhat of an epilogue for the Fox universe. The 20th Century Fox logo even appears in the film. A cavalcade of characters from that series will return, with the likes of Pyro, who's seen in the trailer,
God, I love this part!
Elektra, Sabretooth, with Tyler Mane returning, Professor X, Magneto, and more X-Men rumored to appear. Deadpool and Wolverine is easily my most anticipated film of the year, and it's just such a blessing to have the entire team from the first two movies return. The future is definitely bright for Deadpool.
Don't just stand there, you ape. Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much.
Deadpool and Wolverine.
I'm touching myself tonight.